It's your favourite Atomic Blonde here, and welcome to a spot of Sunday lunch. Sorry I didn't make it last week, guys. Last week was just all a bit bonkers. I was hoping to do a Sunday lunch, but I did warn you. I was out on Saturday. We had a good time, and then I had friends staying. It was all a bit crazy. I was a little bit worse for wear, shall we say. But I'm back this week. Not a lot to cover, actually. I mean, it feels a bit Groundhog Day. I feel like every week, it's like, what have Disney done now or whatever? But let's just crack through, I guess. Let's talk about what we'll be watching. There's not a lot of, there's a lot of new shows out there, obviously, but you're a bit more discerning. I saw last week a couple of my shows ended, The Ark and Silo. So do go check out the reviews of those, which I highly recommend. So this week I wanted to kick off talking about this little beaut. So again, in the last video, I said, this is starting, or had seen a couple of episodes. I think I'd seen a couple of episodes. Oh my days, it all merges into one. So Hijack on Apple TV. As you know, I'm a fan of Apple. The premise of this is pretty obvious, hijack. So Idris Elba is on a plane flying from Dubai back to London, and pretty soon, early into the flight, it's hijacked. One of the passengers basically goes into the toilet and finds a bullet on the floor. There's another passenger talking to her, seeming quite friendly, quite nice. And she comes back from the toilet and shows her friends. And the guy's like, hey, what's up? And she goes, I found this. We need to tell someone. And he's like, leave it with me. I'll go tell the airline steward. Unbeknownst to her, he's one of the hijackers. So obviously doesn't say anything. And now the whole premise is obviously each week there's 7 episodes, 7-hour flight. So it's kind of happening a bit like 24. Each episode's another hour into the hijacking. And so far so good. I think the 3rd episode, getting to the point that it kind of needs to pick up the pace a bit. I think in the 4th episode, because obviously we basically, I don't know, it's the premise of the show, so I get it, but you basically got like 3 episodes of just on the plane and people kind of arguing. So Idris is kind of arguing with other passengers about, should we overwhelm them? Shouldn't we? Should we do this? Should we do that? Sit down, blah, blah. And everybody getting a bit angsty. And I get it. That's absolutely what would happen. But I think we need a slightly different dynamic, or really picking up the pace. So they basically established, so in first class where Idris is, well, business class, there's a guy who said he works in the Egyptian army, I think it was, or something like that. And he said, look, if I knew what the bullets looked like, I could tell you whether they're blanks or whether they're live ammo. So they managed to, this elaborate way of, he sort of drew a picture of what a live bullet looks like and what a dud looks like. They, through elaborate series of events, they managed to get this drawing to the girls who found the bullet in the toilet. They come back and say they're definitely blanks. So then Idris and another passenger go, right, okay, well, we're going to take our chance then, because now we know they're blanks. Let's crack on. While all this is happening, obviously there's certain things keep happening, like say people keep getting up. There's another where one passenger's really not well, and it's his nephew wants to just get his medicine out the overhead locker, and one of the hijackers is just being an arse and just won't let him. And you're just like, seriously? And he beats the crap out of this guy just for trying to get the medicine out and it all kicks off. And then you've got a family with 2 young kids, and one of the kids crawls off down the plane, because one thing you can guarantee in films and TV, you can always rely on the kids to get you killed. So, so they're all kicking off and they're all trying to find the kid. Not as many places to hide on a plane, but anyway. While all this is going on, so that sort of lead hijacker is really starting to lose his rag, with everybody just not doing what they're saying. So he grabs a bag, and then you basically see him changing his ammo in his gun. So he's now got live ammunition. Idris and the rest of the guys don't know this. They think they've all still got blank. And right at the end of the episode, there's a gunshot. No, potentially it's either, well, I mean, Idris isn't going to die, right? So, but it basically, like, he's taking on one of the hijackers who's still got the blank, so it could be him firing the gun, and it's just the blank, or they're insinuating he's coming down the plane with his live ammo. But Idris might get shot, but it's unlikely he's going to die. But so far, actually, I mean, on the ground. And again, there was a series of events that happened in the first episode that people on the ground, so security people who check your bags going to the x-ray, her and her family were taken out, and another guy looking into that got taken out. So it seems to be something much, much bigger at play happening here that we don't know right now. And the whole, the Wi-Fi is turned off, so nobody can send any messages. But Idris managed to get a text out saying they're being hijacked, and obviously the captain raised the alarm. And again, obviously, since 9/11, the cockpits are closed, but he's having an affair with the stewardess, so they threatened to kill the stewardess if he doesn't open the door. And he opened the door. I'm a bit like, in the real world, would somebody really do that? They're taught under no circumstances are they to open the door, because they're like basically, do you sacrifice that one person, because I don't know what they're going to do with the plane, right? So that I found a little bit, but when you sort of see the character of the captain, he's a bit of a wet lettuce anyway. So used to be in coupling, and so some of it's a little bit eye rolling. So anyway, so then they've forced the captain to tell the ground operatives that it was a false alarm. So they hear it's a false alarm. Then they find out about his text message, and they still don't think that's weird. So then they manage to put the plane just a fraction off course, which is apparently what pilots used to do pre 9/11 to sort of flag there was something going on. And on the ground, an air traffic control woman who's the lady who played Gwen in Torchwood, can't think of her name right now. Oh man, my brain is just shocking. Obviously, great, really good actress. So let me Torchwood. This is probably when you're not live streaming that you can have people just in the chat tell you what you need to know. 2 seconds, everyone, nearly there. Cars. Eve Miles, who played Gwen Cooper. So she's on the ground. She kind of picks up on this strange behaviour, which I think is more realistic. So he's like, oh well, it's just just a false alarm, blah blah. But in the world we live in today, where we still have liquid restrictions 20 years later after one guy put some in his shoe, that they wouldn't take this seriously. Again, that's a little bit, oh, well, because I would have thought, right, if you're being hijacked and you've got a gun to your head, surely there'd be something that the captain can say, a code word or something that would say, I'm under duress to the ground. So this whole, well, you can't get in the cockpit anymore, therefore we need no protocols in case somebody got in, seems absolutely ludicrous to me. But maybe that is the world we live in. I don't know. So anyway, they finally sort of go, oh crap, actually I think there's something going on here. Then you kind of got this sort of subplot of Idris's, the reason he's on the plane is he seems to be like he's separated from his wife. He's coming back. She's telling him not to come back. She's with Max Beasley, who's it looked like he was a policeman, but he's not a policeman. He's some sort of investigator or something like that. Can trace people. So the son gets a text message from his dad saying they're being hijacked. Max Beasley phones his ex-girlfriend, inappropriate, to say, we've got this message, what's going on, because she's like connected. She is in the police. So it all comes back that there's nothing wrong. So then his wife, who's very unlikable, older Lasagna Lynch from James Bond, just goes, well, this is typical of him. I can't believe he'd make something like that. So she and you think, wow, their marriage must be really bad if she thinks he would go to the extent to win her back by making up something like he's being hijacked, and that's why she's quite unlikable. You're like, really? Because it sounds like Dad wouldn't make something like that up. I don't think many people would, but she's like, yeah, well, he's just trying to ruin it for me. He knows I've got an interview today, and it seems to be all about her. Doesn't really give much of a crap about her son's feelings, because like Max Beesley's now staying over and the son's not happy about it. She just seems very self-absorbed, like most modern women characters. So yeah, I probably made it sound like I don't really like this show, but I actually do. There's just quite a few things where you kind of just got to go, okay, and just roll with it. Or if that's how things work now, that's just bonkers. But like I said, there seems to be a much bigger subplot going on. So the hijackers have contacted someone to say the plan's in motion. And they go, well, what did they say? And he goes, well, I just got a voicemail. So whoever's behind this hijack isn't even talking to the hijackers now. Not clear if they even know what they're supposed to do now they've hijacked the plane. But there's definitely a lot. And that's why I've got a little bit like, this needs to sort of kick in a bit more. And I think it will, because there's obviously something much bigger going on here than just what we're seeing. Because obviously so far they've made no demands. They've not contacted any authorities. They've just literally got the plane. So I'm quite intrigued to see where this goes. As ever, Idris is brilliant in it. So it has a really good cast. And the acting's good. Some of it's a little bit, you've got to expend belief a bit, that you think, really? That okay. But overall, enjoyable, good. Looking forward to the next episode. And again, I'm quite intrigued as to why have they hijacked this plane? And again, the hijackers are all sort of like, see, sort of, not, I know, sort of just working class rogues almost. You expect them to be like maybe like bank robbers or robbing petrol stations, but not hijacking planes. So again, why have they picked this group of people? Don't know, but I can't wait to find out. So weekly, they dropped the first 2 episodes together. Now it's weekly on Apple on a Wednesday, I believe. Drops on a Wednesday. So go check out Hijack. As always, leave a comment. Let me know what you think. Are you enjoying it? Do you think it's stupid? Or are you intrigued like me? At the moment, it's good. Could be better, but not bad. Which is better than most TV. Unfortunately. Moving on, as always, and it's my usual slot. Kind of. So the mainstream media have a new buzzword, flopbuster. So summer flopbusters. Why are Indiana Jones and the Flash box office bombs? Does Indiana Jones and Die Destiny mark the era of the flopbuster? So this seems to be their favorite thing. Now, what's quite interesting reading these articles is some of them are kind of hinting at it. Some of them are just kind of like, obviously, let's just blame the audience and it's all the audience's fault. And well, you aimed this at old white middle-aged men. What did you expect? You know, it's just the usual navel-gazing type stuff. But some of the others, and actually the does Indiana Jones and Die Destiny mark the year of the flopbuster, which is actually a BBC article. And again, I sound shocked by that, because I think last week I read a BBC article go, actually that's quite, not like the BBC at all. And again, this article's a little bit like that. I was a bit surprised when I read it, because the first one was The Guardian, which again was just complete like, let's just blame the audience. But with all these articles, the frustration is really no one's coming out and saying, well, they're just not that good. So the BBC article, again, they're sort of trying to saying that obviously streaming is playing a factor into this, that people, that the windows are so small now in terms of when these things come into streaming. So back like a million years ago, when I was young, but growing up in the 80s, right? Early 80s, VHS started to come out, but they're expensive, and so basically, if you didn't see it, the pictures, you generally had to, I think it was like 2 or 3 years before it was on TV. So if you didn't get to see it then, there was like 2 or 3 years before you could see this thing on TV. And then obviously if it was on ITV, you had blooming adverts in it. Annoying. So then obviously we got VHS. But again, I think it was like a year between release and it coming out to rent. And obviously to buy them was just astronomical. It's like, you know, £80, £60, £80 to buy your own copy. And obviously over the time, things got cheaper and they come out faster. And we kind of got to the point, I think, within about 3 months of the film being at the cinema, we got a DVD. Now it's like within a month, it's on streaming. Sometimes it's on at the same time, but they charge you £15 to watch it. You know, so the window is getting smaller and smaller on these things. So I think if something has a bit of a review to it, which both The Flash and The Dial of Destiny did, and some people, and especially in current climate, you know, cinema used to be really cheap to go to. You know, that was the thing me and my brother did because we didn't have a lot of money, but you could always afford to go to the cinema, and it was escapism and really what we needed as kids. These days, you know, it's seriously expensive depending on which ones you go to. For a family of 4, you know, you're talking like £100 plus sometimes. So if you're going to be parting with that kind of cash in current climate, you want to go see something that's good. And if all these things, everybody's going, yeah, it's all right. I mean, I wouldn't really bother, or yeah, it's okay. You're just going to wait till it comes on for free, inverted commas, part of your subscription. So that's definitely playing into it. Then they talk about obviously superhero fatigue. The Pixar films are also bombing. So again, usual bad news for Disney. The BBC reporter does actually say, which is quite interesting, you know, she pointed out, this is Rebecca Rubin, wrote for Variety actually. She points out, one of the most expensive movies ever, costing $295 million before marketing. So it's unlikely to make a profit in cinemas. And it was a disastrous result. The sad fact is that The Dial of Destiny didn't deserve to do any better. This film is dour, dreary, and largely pointless rehash of Indy's other escapades. But he wasn't the only hero to fall short last weekend. According to Rubin, DC's beleaguered superhero blockbuster The Flash had embarrassing showing. DreamWorks and Universal, Ruby Gillman, Teenage Kraken, Cratered, and another animation, Elemental, hasn't lived up to Pixar standards. In his review of Elemental in The Guardian, Peter Bradshaw pondered the question of whether Pixar's golden age is irrevocably behind us. The film was Pixar's worst US box office opening weekend since their very first film, the original Toy Story. This summer has so far had a series of underwhelming tentpoles, and before the summer, things were hardly overwhelming either. Both DC's Black Adam and Marvel's Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania fared badly, leading to claims the audience might have superhero fatigue. Bucking the trend, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse has done even better than the first film in the series. But there are too many flopbusters coming out these days to ignore. Ever since Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker and Avengers Endgame came out in 2019, Hollywood seems to be in some sort of endgame itself. So we're basically sort of seeing what happened, 20 odd years ago. It says, I don't think any moment since 20 years ago has resembled a pre-revolution crisis as much as this one does. Bigger, longer, more bloated movies, most of which are lesser versions of what worked 20 years ago. A panic about the waning clout of movie stars, a fearful understanding that old marketing approaches are simply failing to reach or excite vast swathes of movie-going audiences, a dread that Hollywood's best creative days are behind it. Dark times. Then they talk about the writers' strike. And basically, budgets on films which are being made have skyrocketed, largely due to huge sums spent on visual effects. Fast X cost 10 times as much as the original Fast and Furious, and the new Indiana Jones cost more than the previous 4 put together. No wonder these films are struggling to break even. By the end of this summer, Sir Colin, the preceding 12 months will have seen 4 of the 10 most expensive films ever made. So, like I say, there's a number of factors in there which actually, they are starting to be a bit more truthful. But the one thing they keep saying underwhelming. What they're not coming out and saying is that these are just crap. These films are badly written. It's the same old tropes from Disney, the whole bait and switch. The Mary Sue comes in, she's better than everything else. They're breaking down the heroes, being broken out, worn out men who are just useless. And, people don't want to see it. They just don't want to see it. And also, as they said, the target audience for these sort of things, especially like Indiana Jones, is kind of my sort of, 40s upwards, because we grew up with this stuff. And they made it quite clear that we're not the audience they want. So they've whiffed us off saying you're all bigots and racists and homophobes, go away, which we're not. We're just saying, we're Gen X. We'll call spade a spade and go, hey, this film's shit because it's badly written and badly acted. That's it. That's all we're saying. So anyway, so they've driven their audience away for this younger mythical unicorn audience that doesn't exist, and then wondered why this mythical unicorn audience didn't turn up because they were Fleabag in it. And you can't work out why things are flopping. Are you insane? And the one thing the Guardian article did point out was that, and again, very gingerly worded, was that maybe people didn't go see The Flash because of Ezra Miller's extracurricular activities. So again, for months, even years before this film came out, people were like, we don't want to see Ezra Miller. Recast this film. Oh, it's okay. We'll just stick to Batman and it'll be fine. And it's this constant not listening to the audience, not understanding the audience, not understanding the media anymore, and constantly giving us stuff that we don't want to see. It's not rocket science. Just figure it out. So yeah, more of the same this week. I mean, every week, well, not every week, it feels like every week, but every month Disney releases a new film that bombs harder than the one before. So too bad. Now, James Gunn has kind of shot himself in the foot, really, because he could have distanced himself from The Flash a bit. He's coming in new. He could have said, hey, it's great that we're rounding out the series and I really support these films coming out, and left it at that, right? But to say this is the greatest comic book film I've ever seen, everybody's a bit like, oh, doesn't bode well for your universe, James. So I think if you'd been a bit more, hey, I support that these things are coming out, but, it's not my universe. He could have actually really rode the wave of this. And then once all this nonsense is out, he could then go, hey, now let me give you what you want to see. But now he's going to come out with his world, his universe, and go, it's the best thing ever. And we're all going to go, that's what you said about The Flash, mate. Oh, dear. Not really played the game very well there, I would say, James Gunn. And we saw today as well, after the director of Blue Beetle, again, went out and cracked all over his audience. After people said, we don't appreciate you calling Batman a fascist. He's now begging people to go see his film. So that arrogance is starting to ebb away, saying, hey, we can stick anything with a DC Marvel label on it and people will show up, because they're not. So he's now, he did apologize for what he said. He's like, oh, it's just a bit of a joke. Yeah, we did it to kind of poke the bear a bit. But yeah, not funny. And now you're kind of setting your film up to flop. So now it's like, oh, please come back. We didn't really mean it. But the studios have just got to, just stop crapping all over their audience. It's not hard, is it? It's really not hard. And talking of flops, things aren't that much better on streaming. I think people have just had enough. And it's great to see. So The Witcher 3 premiere sees a 15% decrease versus season 2. So it went from 1.3 million first episode in season 2 to 1.1 million in season 3. Now, we all know how Henry Cavill was treated. He's been hoofed out and people are like, we're done. We recently saw again the talentless showrunner of this show almost begging people to give it a chance, and we've listened to you. We're sticking to the source material this season. And what we've seen is from the Samba TV is that yes, there was 1.1 in episode 1, and by episode 5, which is end of part 1, because it's Henry Cavill's last season, so we split it into 2. So by episode 5, it dropped 50%, 505,000, which is shocking on Netflix. Absolutely shocking. So some people did turn out to say, okay, well, are you going to give us the source material? So very quickly, that's not what's going to happen. Again, The Witcher is, secondary in his own show. I personally don't watch this, disclaimer. As you all know, fantasy is not really my bag. I like some of it, but I tried to get into Witcher season 1 and couldn't. But again, if that was the best season, I've got Bob over trying to get into these seasons. So, but I you all know I'm a Henry Cavill fan, and I just think, even if you're not a fan of the actor, he was just done dirty, like a lot of actors of a certain type in Hollywood, shall we say. Yeah. So, if season 4 gets made with Liam, I feel sorry for Liam. But it wouldn't surprise me if that gets canned before they waste any more money on it. And Secret Invasion is dying a death. Obviously, I covered the first couple of episodes. I haven't watched the third episode. No, I haven't watched the third episode. Yeah, it was just bad and boring. There were some good bits in it. There was a few where you kind of go, oh, okay. And then, yeah. So this article, 10 reasons why Secret Invasion episodes ratings are so low. The only thing this is above is Miss Marvel in terms of ratings. And I give, as it says, 10 reasons. Number 5, which I think this should be number 1. Number 5 was, and I was surprised they actually, well, again, they've said it in a very diplomatic way. They have said, Marvel Studios Disney Plus projects haven't always been the best quality. Probably like the biggest understatement ever. And there's a picture of She-Hulk in it under this heading. But the CGI is not very good. The storylines, right? So again, it's like WandaVision, The Falcon and Winter Soldier, Loki introduced big screen audiences to the small screen MCU with brilliant storylines and excellent quality. Well, I'd argue that on all of those shows. WandaVision, I didn't watch. Falcon and Winter Soldier was just dire. The messaging in that film, it's okay to be a terrorist as long as you're on the right side of terrorism. What's the actual? And Loki was just awful. And it was all about female Loki, not about Loki anyway. So again, this is that kind of, we're kind of hinting at it. It's not very good, but we'll still say things are good. It's just they're terribly written. They're awful, and nobody wants to see them. And CGI is the least of their problems. However, this seems to have dwindled as more series have been released. Moon Knight was billed as a dark and sinister series, which didn't translate. Miss Marvel was perhaps unfairly review bombed after its premiere. It wasn't review bombed. I think it kind of done okay, but it just was, it's a kid's show. And the CGI quality of She-Hulk Attorney at Law was criticised by many. No, we criticised how badly written and acted that show was, and then the CGI on top of it. If this show was brilliantly written and acted, we wouldn't give a flying doodah about the CGI. So again, they're saying they're not the best quality, referring to things like this, and not just coming out and saying, look, these shows are crap. We've got like no Avengers in Secret Invasion. It's hard to sell. Marvel Studios may have already spoiled Secret Invasion's storyline. It's like, well done. Secret Invasion is less family friendly than other MCU shows. I don't think that's a reason. Viewers may be suffering burnout after so many superhero projects. No, it's burnout of so many bad, dire, flipping awful superhero projects. That's what we're tired of. The fact that No Way Home and the Spider-Verse bucks those trends show if it's something good, that people want to watch, they will go watch it. Again, I just wish one person would have the kahunas in mainstream media just to say this stuff is pish. Like, ugh. Anyway, we are getting the last laugh. Disney is absolutely hemorrhaging cash. Warner Brothers are, 50 billion in debt. Paramount is cancelling pretty much all of new Star Trek, thank God. That abomination, Strange New Worlds, don't even start me. Yeah, and there was an article the other day, actually, and I think out of the top 15 streamed shows across all streaming networks, it was something like only 4 or 5 of the shows, I think it was 4 shows, are new shows. Everything else is old shows. I mean, Supernatural was in that top 15, and obviously that finished 3 years ago now. And I'm, again, massive Supernatural fan. You can see. Poster up there. There. Anyway. And I've got my my little Dean Funko Pop. Anyway, I digress. Varying degrees of quality in that show, and I'm sure where people are rewatching it, they're all watching the first 5 seasons. Doesn't matter, right? But it's all old shows. So these companies are spending millions, hundreds of millions on these shows, and everybody's like, nah, I'd rather watch Supernatural, or I'd rather watch NCIS, or whatever it is, right? Probably Friends. But the point is, nobody is watching this modern crap, and media will not say why. So something is going to change soon. It's got to. These companies, inflation is going through the roof, so things are getting more expensive to produce, but also credit and loans are getting much more expensive, that they're not going to be able to afford to keep extending their credit. On top of that, we've got the bloody writer's strike, which is hilarious. So I only paid more for this crap that I'm writing. Jog on. So now SAG, or FAG, as they like to call it in Team America, are threatening to strike because nobody cares that the writers are on strike. Nobody cares we're not getting more of their rubbish. So anyway, yeah. So pretty much all the headlines right now is about everything flopping and bombing out, and so they're back. So they're basically putting all their hopes on Oppenheimer, Barbie, and this little beauty, Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1, coming out next week on the 11th. I think there's some previews on the Monday. It's coming out on Tuesday, or day I know, but I think this is all around trying to get as much screen time as they could in IMAX. Because obviously once Oppenheimer comes out, it's going to have all the IMAX screens for 3 weeks. So, but I mean, if this runs like Top Gun Maverick did, this will be going back into the IMAX, definitely. It does what it says on the tin, Mission Impossible. We know what we're going to get. And I was floored when I saw the article the other day about they built a whole train just to crash it. It's like, no CGI here, people. Or it's very, very sparingly. They actually built a train just to ride it off a cliff or whatever. Absolutely fantastic. You cannot beat actual effects. You can, because one of the things where, I think some of the old action films, like 80s, 90s action films, one of the reasons they're so popular, because you can't argue they were written better, because these were cheesy AF. I mean, you think about Commando and things like that, right? They're not well-written films, but bloody hell are they fun, right? Just hour and a half, hour and 3/4 tops of out-and-out fun. I think my only reservation about this, again, is length. I think it's 240. They need to start winding these blooming film times in. Get back to 90 minutes, in and out, fun, action. Not, trying to plan where you have your toilet breaks and all of this, especially as you get older. You need to go a lot. Just saying. So yeah, I am really pumped for this. I'm looking forward to it. I am going to go see this in the cinema. If you're going to watch an action film and things blowing up, you need it in big screen, right? And Dolby sound and all those kind of things. Plus, I really want to support these kind of films. I've already said in here, I am not going to go watch Aquaman 2. Love the first film, but I refuse to go see the third. No way. Like 500,000 people said, get rid of her or we're boycotting this film. And did they listen? No. So, you know, we've got to go out. We've got to buy tickets. We've got to go see things when we want to go see them. Barbie, I'm a bit, I don't know, could be good fun. I think that one I'm waiting to see what some of the early reviews are, but I think that could be a hoot. And Oppenheimer, I think it's the sort of film I'd watch, but it's not the sort of film I'd watch at the cinema. Again, I think it's 3 hours long. I definitely, that's something I'd need to watch at home that I can pause, go to the toilet. Talking about toilet a lot, but pause, do my thing, you know, have a break. So I do like those sort of historical dramas, but it's very, very much the sort of thing I'd watch at home. So probably not. Barbie maybe, definitely going to go see this, and I will let you know what I think next week. So just rounding out, haven't talked about K-drama for a while. I know. So as you know, I love a bit of K-drama. Some of them are just blindly stupid. Some of them are insane. Some of them are very dark. And some are sort of supernatural fun in the middle. So, yeah, they kind of fall into sort of supernatural, sort of romantic comedy dramas, and this sort of very dark dramas, or what I call revenge dramas. So like The Glory, for me, revenge drama. Now, both of these I'd say fall into the revenge drama. Both are on Netflix, Kill Sprees. I started watching Celebrity this week, so I've not finished it yet. And I was a little bit iffy. I was a bit like, I'm not sure I'm going to like this one. But so far, actually, I mean, they do follow a formula, right? So once you kind of click into that formula, you can kind of go, oh, she's going to end up with him. And oh, she's going to that, you know. But the quality of the writing and the acting will always win out, even though you can kind of see where some of this is going. But they always tend to have good twists in them as well. So that's why I enjoy these. So Celebrity, I don't know. I mean, the translation makes sense, but it's more about YouTube and Instagram and basic influencers, Korean influencers. And as I've discussed previously, like from what I've seen, Korea is very hierarchical, and say being poor is the worst thing you can possibly be. And if you're affluent, you know, the worlds just don't mix, you know. So the lead character of this, who's in the photo, she grew up in a very wealthy family, was due to go to America and at an Ivy League school. And then they haven't said what her father's business is yet, but basically his business went under. They lost their money, and she wasn't able to go to university or go to America. And all we know is her father's dead now. Whether he deleted himself because of the business, I don't know yet. And her mother's become like a seamstress, does alterations and things like that for high-end clients. And she's working as a door-to-door saleswoman, a bit like high-end Avon kind of thing. And they're just trying to make ends meet. So one of her old school, her best friend from school, is now a top influencer. And you got basically this group of women who have got famous kind of on each other's backs, and they've got between 400,000 and over 1 million subscribers between them. And they're vile. They're absolutely vile human beings. As soon as like one of them's on their uppers, they cut them off dead, you know, all this kind of thing. So she sort of ran into her old BFF, who basically just assumed she was still rich, that she'd gone to university. She introduces her to other friends, invites her to this VIP party. she's not going to go, but her other friend is like just really excited and giddy that she's met this influencer, and she's like, go, it'll be great, and you can start building out a profile, and you can get influencers, and this is the way you can make money. So her mum takes one of her clients' Yves Saint Laurent dresses, lends it to her, and she goes to the thing, and this is where she sort of meets this incredibly wealthy guy, and you can see the storyline go there. And a situation happens, and another influencer attacks her friends, and she sticks up for her, and she ends up having a glass of red wine thrown all over this sort of limited edition, one of a kind Yves Saint Laurent dress, and the owner of the dress is actually there, and she clicks that maybe it's her dress, because obviously these are all special, like there's probably like 5 in the world or something. It was 12.5 million won. I'm not quite sure that is in pounds, but it's thousands of pounds. Then the woman figures all this out, goes to the alterations lady, her mum, and just lets it go. So she seems a bit but she's a bit older than all the other girls, and she's clearly got a backstory that we don't know yet. So all this starts with this girl, sorry, I can't remember her name, doing a live stream. And she's basically saying, I'm going to tell all the secrets, and this is how I got into the world. And then we basically find out from that all these other influences, these mean girls, basically, like, how can this be? She's dead. So it implies that they killed her, but we haven't seen that yet. So she's dead. How is she live streaming? And she's basically going to spill the beans on all these girls and how horrible they are and what their secrets are. So I think about 3 or 4 episodes in. So again, initially I was a little bit, but I'm actually quite intrigued now. There's this subplot about, well, is she dead? Isn't she dead? How did she get killed? Did they try and kill her? And just seeing how vile they all are to each other is just quite mind-blowing. So Celebrity, I'm recommending so far. I'll let you know next week. Hopefully I would have finished it by then if it's worth sticking with. But yeah, it's a little bit different, interesting subplots, but very much in that K-drama mold. Now, starting on the 13th next week, which I think is next Thursday, a bit high there, is Burn the House Down. And again, revenge drama. The synopsis of this one is, I just read what Netflix says. After her mother took the blame for a tragic fire 13 years ago, Anzu plots revenge by working as a housekeeper under a pseudonym for her icy stepmother. So again, the stepmother seems like an out-and-out cow. And the girl's mother took the blame for a fire, which looks like the stepmother started potentially. And again, so this is all about her going undercover to get revenge, to kind of bring this stepmother down. That's all I know about it. Seen the trailer, looks great, looks right up my alley. Sort of very much in the vein, say, The Glory. Yeah, so that's my one to watch out for, starting on Thursday. And that's it. That's all I've got to say this week. Which is a lot more than I thought, actually. I was like, I've only been watching a couple of shows, not much to talk about. But hey, once you get into it, you get into it. So, as always, do comment, do like, and do share. Please. Does really, really help. So even if you don't agree with me, give me a comment. Tell me why you don't agree with me, or if you agree with my choices. All those other recommendations, other K-dramas you think I should check out, other shows, do let me know, and happy to review them on the channel. I've got a new show that's going to drop, hopefully, well, actually, no, you would have seen it. I would have dropped it yesterday. Oh no, I've given away that I recorded it yesterday. No, so yeah, I've got a new show called Atomic Reads, and sometimes listens. All about just, books and authors that I like. Obviously, some of it's reading. I'm doing quite a lot of Audible at the moment because I've just got more time to do Audible rather than reading. So my first show is about an author called A.G. Riddle. very much in the sci-fi, thriller, ancient alien, sort of Stargate-y genes genre. It's quite but hopefully you'll check that out. And again, let me know what you think. Have you read any of his works? Did you like them? Is there any authors you want me to go check out? So that will be coming on Saturday. Yesterday, just gone. And obviously, I will hopefully see you next Sunday. But that's a maybe, because again, I've got a pretty heavy Saturday. What I might try and do is record it Saturday morning to make sure you get a bit of Sunday lunch, because it'd be rude not to, wouldn't it? So have a great week. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.